Impressionism has become one of the most popular art movements to ever exist, and if you don't believe me, just take a look at the kilometric lines formed in museums to get a glimpse of Manet's, Renoir's, Morisot's or Monet's paintings. Impressionism has crept into our hearts. Aww. Not only because of its innovative technique, but because we can see ourselves in it. This is due to the fact that its works relates more to our experiences today, as the movement showcases outdoor scenes and the urban aspects of life. So if you don't look like a golden age queen, well, good luck finding yourself in a gallery. However, can our love for Impressionism withstand a challenging game of Odd One Out? Let's find out. I'm Thomas Heaton, and this is a game of Odd One Out Impressionism edition. So, before we start playing, let's take a quick 101 on Impressionism. Take notes because this will be your future cheat sheet. This is Claude Monet,
Bonjour,
the precursor of the movement, and who some call the father of Impressionism. In the late 1800s, he and his friends left their studios behind and started painting outdoors to get a better impression of everyday life, something that was possible thanks to the introduction of oil paint tubes that allowed artists to have flexibility and efficiency when painting outdoors. They would try to imitate the changing qualities of light and different movements through relatively small and thin visible brushstrokes, bold colours and open compositions. Unfortunately, their work was not praised by art theorists, so in 1876 they decided to exhibit their work of art independently. In the exhibition, Monet's painting Impression Sunrise caused so much commotion that it gave the movement its name. But by their final exhibition in 1886, the style had become insanely popular amongst French society. And from there, well, I guess the rest is history. Now that we have a better understanding of what Impressionism is, why don't we play a quick game of Odd One Out? Let's start easy. I'll be showing you two artworks, and you'll have to choose which one isn't part of the Impressionist art movement. Are you ready? Here we go. Which of these artworks is not from the Impressionists movement? I'll give you some time to think. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Did you figure it out? The answer to the question is option number 2, The Dance of Life by Edward Munch. Opposite to Impressionism, which looked to depict everyday life, Symbolism looked to suggest ideas and emotions through symbols. Symbolist painters, such as Munch, would emphasize the meaning behind the forms, lines, shapes and colors to achieve this hidden message. In Dance of Life, Munch uses various colors to symbolically express different feelings: red for passion, white for youth and innocence, black for loneliness, sorrow and death. Since symbolism is rooted in subjectivity, for some, Munch tries to depict the stages of life, but for others, it just shows the ill-fated relationship with his lover, Tulla Larsen. Option number 1, on the other hand, does belong to the Impressionist movement. The Water Lily Pond is part of the famous Water Lily series of Claude Monet, which spans more than 200 pieces of varying sizes. After the death of his first wife, Monet moved to Giverny, with who would become his second wife, Alice. There, he fell in love with the house and its garden, the latter becoming his primary inspiration for the last 30 years of his life. It was the work during this time that catapulted Monet to now be considered the basis for all of modern and contemporary art. Okay, so now that we are feeling a bit warmed up, let's start the game. You'll have to choose from 4 artworks which one is not part of the Impressionist movement. Are you ready? Your options are number 1, the bridge at Villeneuve-la-Garenne. Option number 2, a Sunday at La Grande Jatte. Option number 3, in the Bois de Boulogne. Or option number 4, Girl Awakening. I'll give you 10 seconds to answer. Take your time, but no more than 10 seconds. Do you have the answer? Okay, time is up. Let's see if you guessed correctly. The answer is Option 2, A Sunday on Le Grand Jotte by Georges Seurat. If you thought this painting was part of the Impressionist movement, well, you aren't completely wrong, since it does take inspiration from Impressionism. However, Seurat's A Sunday on Le Grand Jotte belongs to the Neo-Impressionist movement, but more accurately, to Divisionism. This style mainly took Impressionists' approach to light and colour and added a scientific base. Neo-Impressionists like Seurat and Paul Signac understood that to bring greater luminosity and colours to their work, they'd have to apply tiny dabs of colours separately on the canvas, opposed to mixing them on the palette. The separated colours are mixed thanks to the scientific optical principles of light and colour, which create strictly formalised compositions. And since optically mixed colours tend to move towards white, they could achieve a greater play on light. Just look at the details of this painting. So what about the rest of the artworks? Well, you guessed it, they form part of the distinguished art movement, Impressionism. Emblem of modernity, this state-of-the-art bridge was painted by Alfred Sisley in 1872. A frequent motif on Sisley paintings, the French artist depicts the cast iron and stone suspended bridge that connected the village of Villeneuve-la-Garenne with the Paris suburb of Saint-Denis. The flat strokes of bright blue convey the sun's reflection on the water. Known to be one of the first women to join the Impressionist group, Berthe Morisot often portrayed the intimate bond between mother and child, as well as women's social life during that time. In her painting, In the Bois de Boulogne, we can see two women enjoying their afternoon at the park, one of the few places they were allowed to be. Although she never exhibited with the Impressionists, Eva González is still considered one of the most celebrated Impressionist painters alongside Morisot and Marie Cassatt. Her natural tones and precise contours demonstrate her distinctive style and personal charm. In this painting, González depicts her sister Jeanne shortly after she awakened, her gaze still dreamy and distant. The Impressionist movement brought into perspective new ways of doing art outside of the rigid structures of traditional fine arts. Art was no longer about portraying exact details of a subject, but the emotions that they evoked. By rejecting these traditional canons, Impressionists embraced modernity and everyday life, an act that continues to inspire artists to explore new subjects and ways of doing art. Well guys, this marks the end of our fun game of Odd One Out. If you want to learn more about the Impressionist movement, make sure to visit Google Arts and Culture for more information, and I will see you in the next one.